We do have a top 10 list for
We do.
2004 because that is a relatively recent year. And there were some incredible movies that came out this year, which was part of the problem because we've seen them all already.
Yeah. Yeah, great year.
Why don't you go first?
Yeah, I'll throw out a couple honorable mentions. There are some iconic films from this year, franchise films and otherwise. We've got there was Spider-Man 2 this year, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban was this year, which I think might still be the best Harry Potter movie. Mean
That's correct.
Girls,
Yeah.
yeah, Mean Girls and Shaun of the Dead were this year. Both have huge followings. Great movies. So yeah, I mean those are just a couple honorable mentions just right off the top that I think were great movies, just not quite top 10 movies. So if we are going to do top 10 movies, I will start with number 10, Hotel Rwanda by Terry George, starring Don Cheadle, about the genocide in Rwanda. And Don Cheadle played a hotel manager who ended up saving a lot of people from the atrocities that were taking place at that time. Number 9 is a film we discussed earlier and a film that will not appear on Brad's list. Number 9 is Badass. And my number 8, then moving on, is a film we're all very familiar with, Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume 2.
Wow, that's lower than I thought it would be.
It is, but the films that'll come up higher. I mean, some of them you'll agree with, and some of them I think you'll shake your head at me and maybe even make a face. So
Okay.
so we'll see. But I mean, I love it. It's a 5 star. I mean, these are all 5 star movies from here on out for me. So yeah, I love Kill Bill Volume 2. I think it's just phenomenal. My number 7 is Bill Condon's Kinsey, starring we got Liam Neeson, Peter Sarsgaard, Laura Linney, Chris O'Donnell. Great performances. But Liam Neeson plays Alfred Kinsey, who was one of the world's foremost researchers in all kinds of just sexual research and knowledge. Been a while since I've seen this one, but it's really great. Have you seen Kinsey?
I have, yeah. I think, is this the final big performance from Chris O'Donnell?
I believe so. Yeah. I don't recall anything big from him after this.
So William Sadler has a scene in this movie that is
Yeah.
so disturbing.
Oh, yes.
Oof,
Yes.
really upsetting. That's what I remember. I saw Kinsey in the theater. I haven't seen it since, so I don't have a rating for it.
I have it at 5. Yeah, I remember really loving that. Number 6 is Pixar's The Incredibles. I still think it's one of the best Pixar movies. Just a great deal of fun. Fantastic action movie. Great sequences. The animation is just superb.
I
Really
forgot
love
to
that movie.
I forgot to mention this last week, but Brad Bird actually talks about the Red Shoes as one of the major influences on his career.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is interesting. I would not have put that together.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Number 5, Martin Scorsese's The Aviator. I used to have this a little bit lower, but I watched it again recently, and I was like, you know what? This is better than I remember it. It's just wildly entertaining. DiCaprio is amazing in it. Kate Blanchett is amazing in it. It's just a really great movie. Better than I had remembered it, and that's why it used to be lower in my top 10, but yeah, it's a little bit higher.
It's
Uh,
number
num-
13 in my list.
Good. Yeah, it's just
I,
great.
yeah. I also watched it recently. It's a lot of fun. Kate Blanchett really going for it.
She really is going for it, and then she nails it. Brings us to number 4 on my list, Clint Eastwood's Million Dollar Baby. Film kind of came out of nowhere at the end of 2004 and ended up doing really well at the Oscars that year. But the boxer who becomes paralyzed and the aftermath of that. I still think it's a very well done movie. Eastwood stars and directs. Hilary Swank is very good in this as well. Yeah, just a very effective movie. Now, as we get into the top 3, like I said, these have all been 5 star movies kind of so far, but these top 3 are even. I don't go higher than 5 stars, but if I were to do something dumb and do higher than that, these movies would be candidates to do so. Number 3 is Richard Linklater's Before Sunset. We talked recently in our top 1980 movies about some of the best second movies ever in a trilogy. Before Sunset is another one of the best second movies ever in a trilogy. Just a beautiful movie. Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy are just wonderful in this. It's the best of the trilogy, and so one of the best movies of 2004, easily. My number 2, Michel Gondry's Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Again, watched this recently, earlier this year, it being the 20th anniversary. We watched it. It holds up really well. It's a beautiful movie. It's sad. It's funny. It's heartbreaking. It's a lot of things. It's really everything, like everything that your relationships have been in the past. They kind of put it all together into this one. Gosh, I'm actually getting emotional just kind of thinking about the movie. It's a tough one to get through, but it's well worth the ride. It's really good. It's probably Jim Carrey's best performance. Kate Winslet, who has given like a million great performances, it's right up there for her too. And my number 1 is something we've talked about several times as we did on the Alexander Payne podcast, but Sideways is my favorite movie of 2004.
And probably one of your favorite movies ever, yeah?
Absolutely. Yep.
So we have a lot of overlap. I was gonna do honorable mentions, but you You talked about a lot of these movies already. So the only honorable mention I'll mention is The Terminal, which I think is terminally underrated as a feel-good movie. Steven Spielberg has very few duds. The Terminal, I will disagree with anyone who says this is one of them. I think this movie's delightful.
Yep, I like it too. It's not in like my top 20 is what I was going off, but I also think it's like the hate is unfair. I think it's a nice movie.
I'll say the same for James L. Brooks's Spanglish. I don't think you like, oh, you do like this one?
I like Spanglish. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't love it, but yeah, I like it.
It's lower on my list. I have Terminal at 14 and Spanglish at 17, but I like them both. I like obviously the Terminal more. Okay, so my top 10. Some of these I'm surprised you didn't have in your list. Number 10 is Walk on Water.
Oh, yeah, that might be a 2005 is maybe why.
Okay, so there's a couple that I know are 2005s for you because they're foreign films.
Yeah.
Walk on Water is an Israeli film about a Mossad agent whose wife commits suicide. So he's reassigned from tracking terrorists to going to Germany to look for an old, like very elderly Nazi and getting into this family through his grandchildren and the relationships he forms along the way. It's very good. Number 9 is Edgar Wright's Shaun of the Dead, my second favorite zombie movie. This movie's so funny, and the other movies in the Cornetto Flavors trilogy are actually they're probably both better than this, but I love all of them.
Yeah, it's my number 11.
Okay, cool. My number 8 is Sideways, which was another movie that I didn't like as much when I watched it the first time and didn't understand your love of it. And then as I aged into the age of the characters, I started to like a lot more, even though it gives me an existential crisis when I watch it. It's just terrific. And we, like you said, we talked about it in the Alexander Payne episode. It ranks very highly there. And from here on out, all of these, like you, they're like just classics. My number 7 is The Incredibles. I think Brad Bird needs to make more animated films. He's so good at it. And I haven't seen Tomorrowland, but if anything should tell you, like, stick to animation, that's probably it. Incredibles 2 is also whatever. Like, do another original movie. The Iron Giant and The Incredibles are so good. My number 6, I think this is probably a release issue, is Howl's Moving Castle.
Yeah.
Absolutely love Howl's Moving Castle. We saw this together in the theater when we were in college. So it must have come out at least in 2005 because
Yep, it was an 05. Yep.
yeah, we saw it together. My number 5 is a movie I made you watch recently and also didn't watch myself until pretty recently. It's called Mind Game. It's by Masaki Yuasa. We are big Masaki Yuasa heads on the Never Did It podcast.
Yep.
Like almost all of his movies. This one I think is his best. It is a crazy, crazy, just like out of this world, everything is weird, animated film that's pretty much the story of Jonah and the whale. Incredible. I don't even know how to describe it, except at one point a guy gets shot in the butt with a gun. And that's sort of like the way that the plot jumps off. So that movie's incredible. My number 4 is Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. I cannot say it better than you. You put it so emotionally. Where on your list, I hope it's somewhere in 11 through 20, is Kung Fu Hustle.
Kung Fu Hustle is another 05 release. Didn't come to us
Well,
until the spring of 05.
I guess '05 got all the good Asian
Yeah.
movies. Yeah, I love Kung Fu Hustle. This is Stephen
Yep.
Chow's masterpiece. It's his best movie by far. I lose it every time I watch this movie. It is a love letter to the Looney Tunes. It's and Kung Fu movies. You've got Stephen Chow in the lead. Yun Hua as the landlord is so good. You've seen him in if you're a fan of kung fu movies, he shows up a lot. Yuan Q, who's been a Bond girl, plays the landlady. She's so good. I think she was in Man with the Golden Gun, one of the Roger Moores.
Roger Moore's. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was wondering which one you meant. Yeah.
Yeah, one of the Roger Moores. I'm just obsessed with it. Chi-Ling Chu is also in it as the tailor, like this very funny, like effeminate tailor. There's a trio of worksmen who reveal themselves to be kung fu masters, and then there's this evil old kung fu master who's in jail, and he looks like this old decrepit guy, but it turns out he's the most dangerous man in the world, which is like the Shang Tsung. If you like Mortal Kombat, you will love Kung Fu Hustle. It is like the comedy version of the Mortal Kombat video game. I can't say enough things. On a different day, in a world where the next two movies don't exist, this movie is number 1. I am obsessed with Kung Fu Hustle. But speaking of Kung Fu, my number 2 is Kill Bill Volume 2, which is my favorite Tarantino movie. Love it to death. Amazing story of revenge. I think it's much cleaner than Kill Bill Volume 1. I'd love to see these as one movie. People who say they've seen The Whole Bloody Affair are, I would say, almost certainly lying. Who's the guy who sees all the movies that didn't
Nicholas
exist?
Winding Refn.
Yeah. Hey, Nicholas Winding Refn it. But I think that Tarantino, if he's not going to give us his final movie, he owes it to us to
Yeah,
give us The Whole
why is
Bloody
this not
Affair.
available anywhere? I don't understand that.
It's so strange. And then my number one is on most days I would call this or this and like two other movies my favorite movie. It's Before Sunset. I just saw Hitman recently, and in the first act of Hitman, I wasn't feeling it so much, and I thought like, oh no, has Linklater lost it? And then as the plot kicked into gear, I was like, it's Linklater. Of
Yeah,
course, it's still good. It's still
he's
and
he still
Hitman.
got it.
He still got it. Hitman's good, and Before Sunset is just like this amazing movie about middle-aged crises and what it would mean to throw it all away for something that you had a whiff of in your 20s. It's like such great fantasy chasing fodder. I could talk about Before Sunset for hours and hours, but yeah, Ethan Hawke and Julie Delpy are perfect.
Well, they
It,
help write them too. I mean, I
of
know there's
course,
like
yep.
there's an improv element to them too a little bit, or maybe not improv, but like there's some freedom involved in there with
They're
their writing it.
oh yeah, of course. There's some element of like creative control that Delpy and Hawk have because they help write him. The second one and the third one anyway.
Right.
I like this so much more than the third one and quite a bit more than the first one too, although I think the first one's kind of a masterpiece. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. And it moves at such an amazing clip because it's super short because it
Yeah.
is technically like quote unquote in real time
Ah,
happening,
yeah.
which is terrific. And it taught me how to count to four in French. So
Yeah.
there's
Bon
that.
deux, trois, quatre.